One subject that we haven't covered yet is troubleshooting, and that is basically working out common problems with computers. There are multiple ways that you can approach sorting out computer problems. For example, there's a difference between hardware and software problems. So we'll start off by examining the differences between hardware and software troubleshooting. Hardware and software errors. Hardware errors happen very quickly and involve the physical components that are attached to the computer or inside the computer. Most of these problems can be solved simply by switching the computer on and off. For example, if you don't have a plug-and-play device that device has been dislodged, you will need to reconnect the device and restart the computer. Some hardware problems are caused by the computer actually overheating. Hardware problems are easily noticed. Drives may become inaccessible, devices may stop working, and if it's a problem with the graphics card, the screen can sometimes appear jumbled. Hardware problems affect the keyboard, mouse, monitor, any buttons that you have on the computer, and any network connections are also classed as hardware problems, as the network card and the network ports are both hardware, and if these fail, you will be unable to connect to the internet, and this is obviously a hardware issue. So if everything on the computer is working, even if it's working slowly, usually it is a software issue that you have. Software issues can be present for a long time but not actually surface. You can't actually see that they're there until a certain scenario occurs. And there may only be an issue with one piece of software. For example, you may think your keyboard is not working because it's not typing in Microsoft Word. But then you were to load up the internet and type into Google, you would see that obviously your keyboard is working and it is a software issue with Microsoft Word. A slow computer is a very good sign of a software issue. A software that requires more than a normal amount of RAM is obviously having issues, unless your computer is a very old computer. This is normally a software problem. So, telling the difference between a hardware and a software issue. Okay, so if you feel you've got a problem with your keyboard, to ensure that it is not the keyboard itself and it might be a software, what you might do is actually try the keyboard in a different program, for example PowerPoint or Word, and if the keyboard works in one but not the other, obviously you know that this is not a keyboard issue. If this keyboard is still not working in either, you can be quite sure that it is actually a keyboard issue. It's a hardware issue and not a software problem. In order to prove this, the best thing would be to connect a different keyboard to this computer to test if that works in those programs. Restarting a computer usually resolves a hardware issue, and reinstalling a software can normally resolve a software issue. It's also good to check the drivers that are associated with the hardware. Now, the drivers are little pieces of software that translate the instructions needed to be given or to be taken from a piece of hardware to make it compatible with the computer. So here's an example of troubleshooting. We're going to have a go at looking at the potential problems that could be associated with a failure to print, so an inability to print. So there we have it. This person cannot print, so what are we going to do to help them? Is the printer online? i.e., is it switched on? Is it connected to the network? Having resolved that, we might have a look and see, is there paper and ink in the printer? If all these things are working, has the user selected the correct printer? Have they sent it to a different printer and now obviously they're disappointed to not find that their work is there? They should obviously select the correct printer and send the job again. If all these things don't work, there is a possibility that it could be a problem with the driver of the computer. So the wrong one has been installed, or there is no driver present, so that it's a software issue essentially. Finally, if the user cannot print with all of these things checked, they may not actually have permission to access that printer on that particular network. Their user policy may state that they cannot use that particular printer. We all have a user policy or user rights depending on what group we are in when we are on a network. For example, I am within the staff group and you would be within the student group, so you may not be able to access the staff printer and you certainly can't access areas of the staff drive. So this may be an issue. So another printer may need to be selected, and potentially there may be a need for permission to be granted to that person if it is appropriate. So that's all the reasons why potentially you may not be able to print, and we've gone through that on a stage-by-stage basis. Following all those steps, obviously we'll resolve the issues in that particular case. Now, we're going to have a look at another example. This example is going to be the inability to open a file, so we're going to go through the reasons why that might not be able to happen. Okay, so here we have someone that is unable to open a file, obviously quite infuriating. So we're going to have a look at the reasons why this person may not be able to access this file. First of all, possibly the file has been moved into a new folder or location, and if you're using a shortcut and not actually accessing it from the particular window it used to be in, so if you've clicked on recent files and that file's actually been moved, unfortunately it's not going to be able to find it in that location. Maybe the file has been renamed. That could be a reason for not actually being able to access it, or the computer not recognising the file that you're trying to open. Maybe the file has been corrupted in some way. Maybe the file type or extension has been changed. This can occur when you convert, for example, a MP3 into a WAV or something similar, or a doc into a docx. So that might be one reason why you might not be able to find that particular document when you try and open it, or a file when you try and open it. Maybe you put a password on the file and you cannot remember it, or the system doesn't have the necessary rights to access it, so unfortunately a wrong password may have been used, or just you've been blocked on the network from accessing that file. So just to recap, if you're unable to open a file, it may have been moved to another location, it may have been renamed, it may have been corrupted, or the file extension, for example .doc or .wav, may have been changed so it can't be recognised, or there may have been a password placed on it and that has been entered incorrectly, and maybe that has been saved incorrectly, so every time it tries to access it, unfortunately the incorrect password is given. Obviously, if you change or go through these stages and try and work out which one it is, hopefully in 99% of cases you should be able to open the file successfully. We're going to look at 404 errors now. You probably have seen these quite a lot of times, but you probably won't understand or remember where you've seen them, or remember why they came up. So this is what a 404 page looks like, and this comes up when you are on the internet, and it means that the page that you are wanting to access is no longer available, maybe because it has been moved, or it has been removed, or the name has been changed. There may be an incorrect link given, so the actual link that you were given from another website was incorrect. Unfortunately, there's not a lot you can really do unless you can just check and try again that the address you've used is correct, because obviously this is not a page on the particular website you're looking for. This is simply an error page, so there will not be a link on this error page telling you where to go. Okay, so here's a question for you then to answer for me. I am unable to print. So, I cannot print. What are the steps that I should take to solve this problem? This is an 8-mark question. So, give it a go and see what you can come up with. Okay, here's a few things to get you started. Is the printer switched on? Does the printer have paper within it? Does the printer have a connection to the network? Are you connected to the printer? And finally, one more, but there are more. Is there enough toner or ink? Okay, so there's a few points for you to get started with.